you will actually be able to finish a campaign before the real-life BBEG that is scheduling issues defeats yet another TTRPG game. Greetings, mortals. I am a GM who in his 10+ years of running campaigns has only ever brought 2 to a satisfying conclusion. Also known as Harrison Tar. I have come here today to convince you that a solution for my problem, and also a solution for many problems that you might be experiencing as a game master, can be solved by having shorter campaigns. Before I get into how planning for short campaigns is going to solve all of your problems, let me address a few misconceptions that some have about the length of a TTRPG campaign. Firstly, you don't have to start at level 1 or level 3 or 5 as the case may be and go all the way to level 20 for it to be a complete campaign. Really, a campaign to me is anything that goes probably more than like 5 or 10 sessions. Like that counts. As long as it has been brought to a satisfying conclusion, then you can call that campaign finished. It could just be, I mean, we get into the weeds here, it could be like an adventure module, but if you didn't buy it and run it, is it actually an adventure module? If you're just homebrewing the whole campaign, is it just you? Or, you know, it's semantics, right? But my second kind of misconception is that it has to be epic or even long. That's kind of what I was talking about already. It doesn't have to be that many sessions, it doesn't have to go for that many levels, and it doesn't have to be epic. It doesn't have to get to like epic level threats. And you know, 20th level is epic level, but I'm even talking about like, you don't have to fight a big bad evil guy that is dangerous objectively. The big bad evil guy at the end of a campaign could just be like a CR5 dragon wormling, if that's what you want to go for. And now I might lose some of you here, but another misconception is that a complete campaign has to tell the whole story and wrap up every single loose end. And that is just not the case. Now that I've disclaimed some words, now that I've told you about some of the misconceptions about the length of campaigns, let me tell you the 4 main benefits that you will find if you switch to short campaigns. Firstly, you will actually be able to finish a campaign before the real-life BBEG that is scheduling issues defeats yet another TTRPG game. It doesn't take a mathematician to figure out that if you don't go for nearly as long, the likelihood of somebody having to bow out goes down. Shorter campaigns greatly reduce your chance of suffering a TPC, which is a total party cancellation. That was one finger. The second major benefit that you will find when switching to short campaigns is that it sets expectations. And I will say, over and over from rooftops and in the sewers, setting expectations is one of the most important things that you can do for your TTRPG group to make sure that everybody has fun. It sets expectations for both the players and the game master. Everybody knows, okay, we're not going for too long, we're aiming for around 20 sessions. So by that 20 session mark, we will be reaching the finale of this campaign. And you will be astonished what that schedule does for just contagious anticipation amongst your party. Everybody sees that finish line coming up, and everybody is thinking about it and getting excited, even if they don't know any specifics or don't even have any theories about what the end of the campaign is going to look like. They see that deadline approaching and know, oh man, it's gonna be done by that point. That is going to create a lot of anticipation in your players, and personally for me, it works as a GM too, to create anticipation for, oh man, we're getting to the end, we're coming up on what was going to be the finale, the big climax, and when you know exactly when that's coming, you can't help but be excited for it. And with a schedule, then you know that you're getting to that point that everybody can be excited for relatively soon. And finally, in the point of setting expectations, it makes the commitment your players have to make, and as a GM that you have to make, concrete rather than abstract and indefinite. If you just say, hey, would you want to run a tabletop campaign for us? and somebody says, sure, I'll do that. And then in their mind, they're thinking, okay, well, I'll run it for a while and then we'll stop. But then it's never a satisfying ending, and nobody can commit to an indefinite game, really, ever. Everybody knows that something is going to come up, even if it's years down the road. Making an indefinite commitment is something that people aren't actually able to do, even if they want to. But committing to 20 sessions over the course of a year or 6 months, that is something that people can be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll commit to that. I'll show up for all of these sessions unless I really, really can't, and then we'll be done. And then we can decide to keep going, do another campaign, but then that's another commitment that's separate from this initial one. And I personally really value people who stick to their word and don't cancel plans. And this makes a way for you to have this commitment that is actually feasible rather than this abstract, indefinite, let's play a weekly game for eternity kind of commitment. My third major benefit of a short campaign goes along the lines of probably an old adage that I certainly didn't make up, but limitations breed creativity. I think of that scene from SpongeBob with the blank page with just a really fancy looking "the" on it. This idea that a blank page, is one of the hardest things to actually turn into a creative project. Setting limitations and restrictions and a structure for yourself is how you actually achieve something creatively satisfying. You need those limitations to inspire you. A short campaign inspires fast-moving adventures. And I say fast-moving meaning both like plot points, like you're not gonna have many filler episodes or fights that don't actually have anything to do with anything, they're just random encounters. And also when it comes to character development and character arcs, because like I said, that contagious anticipation, knowing that there's an end point, that will inspire people to, drive their character towards this arc that they have in mind for them, or develop a relationship between two PCs or with an NPC and have that come to fruition by the time that 20 episode finish line comes around. And they kind of have that in mind and they're working toward that, and you can kind of pace it out in your head, even if it's not exact. And 20 episodes isn't, the end all be all ideal kind of length. This is just the example that I'm using. And something that has worked really well for me. About 20 episodes was the length of the second campaign that I was able to bring to a satisfying conclusion, in my opinion. Actually, that campaign will be made available for you to listen to as a podcast from Tabletop Sandbox, coming soon. But that limited campaign causes people to bring those character arcs to fruition a lot faster, and more stuff happening, closer together without any wasted time is much more interesting and exciting of a campaign than just taking things slow and steady and, a major event happening every 10 sessions or things like that.
I want a major event every 3 sessions.
And a mini campaign, this short, limited 10, 20, 30, 50 session campaign is really useful for plotting that out ahead of time and then actually achieving it as a game master. And finally, the fourth benefit of switching to short campaigns is that it prevents burnout. And I do mean both game master burnout and player burnout. When you have a campaign that has a set beginning and a set ending, and everybody knows it starts here and ends here, you get to that point, and hopefully, if it was a good campaign, after the finale, everybody else is like, oh man, I want to keep playing. I want to keep doing more of that. But you don't have to do that. In fact, it's better if you don't. It's better if you take a short break. Even if your campaign 1 was just like season 1 or book 1 of this story, and then you want to go into book 2 or season 2 of it, take that little break, because that gives you time to recuperate and, replenish your creative juices. And also, I don't know what your friend group is like if they're perfect, but it also gives people a time to not be with other people every week. Take a break, because some people can get on people's nerves sometimes. Not speaking from personal experience, just, it's a benefit of it. It also prevents GMs from running into a lot of burnout, because you prep this whole campaign and then you have an endpoint in mind, right? And then you can finish, and then you get to the end of this campaign, and then you can take a breath because you're done. Unlike a normal kind of epic campaign where you're like, well, we started at level 1, we're going to level 20, then it's just on and on and on, and sometimes it can really become a slog, especially for the game master who's putting in at least twice the amount of time weekly than, what the actual game time is in prep. After you finish this short campaign, you can then switch and have somebody else be the game master for whatever the next game is. Or you can just switch systems and try something completely different out. It's also a great time to just do a bunch of throwaway one-shots. That's a great opportunity for new GMs to try out running a game. And it's, if your main campaign is fairly serious, or at least you try to make it as such. I know that's a foolish kind of pursuit, but I always find myself trying to do that. You can then cut loose for a short one-shot or a two-shot where you just go ham and are completely ridiculous with, the events and the characters and, whatever. Take that break, take that mental load off and not care that much about the stuff that comes in between, season 1 and season 2, or this campaign and the next campaign. So try out a short campaign. And this doesn't have to be a drastic thing. Like I said, it doesn't even have to be the end of that particular campaign. Just pick an end date for season 1 or book 1 of that campaign. And then after you've, completed those 20 or however many episodes, you can take a look back on it, say, oh, that was really great, I want to keep going, or, that was not exactly what I expected it to be, but pretty good. And then you can poll everybody to see if they want to keep going. You can look back on it and say, what are some things that I wish I had done differently or better? And you can fix those going into season 2. But I think it's the way to go, because it's really only limiting in a positive way, right? It gives you that time to breathe. And so I would highly recommend that you try out running a short campaign, or even just test it in a multi-shot or a mini campaign, which instead of being, 20 episodes is only 5 or 6 sessions. You know what I mean. But I highly suggest that you try this out, and if you have done this before, let me know. How did you think it went? And, if you do try this out, come back to me in, a couple months or a couple weeks or whenever and comment on this video and let me know how it goes. Or you could actually join the Tabletop Sandbox Discord, which will be linked in the description below, and then you can tell us about your experiences playing in a short campaign. I would love to know how it goes for you if you try it out. Well, I'm off to start planning another short campaign, and so I leave you with this. Good night, mortals.